All right, let's try this again. Aha, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Testing, testing, 1, 2. Can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear me. Anybody? Thumbs up? Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me? Yes? No? Yes? No? All right, sweet. Thank you, mighty soul. Soul. All right, all good. Sweet. Yeah, sorry about this, guys. Literally, we had everything set up. And then, I guess the farts of Hillary ended up coming in and messing it up. Don't worry, Suave. I got you, bro. I got you. I got you. You want to come on? All right. And just answer it. Just say yes. I see your. There you go.
Okay.
Not sure I understand.
What up, man?
Let me back up a little bit so you guys can see my full dome. Is that better?
You look amazing, bro.
All right, can everybody can everybody hear me? I want to make sure everybody hears me.
I hear you loud and clear, brother.
Beautiful, 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 beautiful. All right, we'll wait a few minutes. Make sure people get back on.
Yeah. This just sucks, dude.
I was like, dude, we've been promoting all week. I got everything ready, and I hope it keeps going.
No,
And I'm like,
it was going, but like I had like my wires all set up, my speakers and everything, you know, headphones and the whole 9 yards. And then I'm looking up and I hear thunder, and I was like, nah. And I check on my phone, like, nah, it's not supposed to rain today. All right, I go inside the house. Alexa, is it gonna rain today? No. Okay. And then it came down. I'm like, fuck. Well, we're good. We're in the truck today.
Good. All right, just want to make sure everybody that's tuning in gets a chance to tune in, and we're good. Okay, so like we said, we're gonna talk about the origins of house music and everything, and this is gonna go by real quick. Okay, so I would say this whole thing will last as far as me explaining everything, the whole story, and this is me chopping up the story because I mean there are different segments that I'm gonna go into, and each segment I could go into 2 or 3 hours just on that segment alone. So there's going to be, for those that really know for those that really know the story, they're going to notice I'm chopping up a lot of things and leaving a lot of things unsaid. Just basically going to tell the main points, the hard points on what happened, how this whole house music thing got started, what laid the foundation of house music and everything that we see today. So I'm going to go and start there and then go into the whole Chicago thing. And then after that, I'm going to leave it up to you guys, the questions or whatever. And that's pretty much it. So let's get to it. Club culture, how this whole thing started. Pretty much it started in New York. In the 60s, there was a law. There was a law in New York called the Cabaret Law. And that law basically said that 2 guys or 2 girls cannot dance with each other. Okay? That was the law. And a lot of cops would bust these bars, these gay bars, but they were very specific bars. And this is where the whole gay thing comes in, because these bars were obviously gay bars, but they were predominantly black bars. And the music that was being played at these bars, disco. Okay. So what happened was in 1969, I believe, there was a spot called Stonewall, and the cops came in and they busted this place. But this time, the cops thought it was going to be a regular routine. They bust gay bars all the time. But this time, the people fought back, and that ensued a riot. And basically, it's called the Stonewall riots. This is well documented. There are many documentaries about the Stonewall riots. In fact, there's a few movies out. As a matter of fact, one movie is called Stonewall, which came out maybe not that long ago, 5-6 years ago. It's called Stonewall. And there are other movies about the Stonewall riots. So if you guys want to Google that on your time and want to get really deep into it. But the riots, this time they fought back and ensued a riot, and the riots lasted the whole weekend. And that forced the mayor of New York to abolish the law, to get rid of it. So now gay people are open, they're free to dance together. Guys could dance with guys and girls could dance with girls, and now they're free to express themselves. So all these down low bars, okay, these underground bars, now they could come out. Now they don't have to be in hiding anymore. So all these clubs, all these gay bars started popping up once this law was abolished, okay? So that gave the people the freedom to express themselves. And since we all know gay people like to party, okay, all these bars started coming up. And in that movement came 3 clubs that were monumental for everything that we see today. And those clubs was the Loft, the Gallery, and of course the big one, the Paradise Garage. And it's right where the Paradise Garage where I want to start this story. So again, it was the Stonewall riots. The Black and Latino gay people fought back against the cops that forced the mayor to change the law. Now gay people could dance out in the open. And because of that, all these clubs and bars started flourishing, started popping up. They didn't need to be hidden anymore. So with that movement, we got the Gallery, the Loft, and the Paradise Garage. So that again, that happened in 1969. Well, and I would say in the mid 70s, that's when, actually 1976 is when the Paradise Garage opened up. So we could start from the Paradise Garage into what's leading into this whole house music thing. And that's the DJ that made the Paradise Garage what it is was Larry Levan. Okay. And that's where we start the story, because Larry Levan's good friend was Frankie Knuckles. A lot of people think Frankie Knuckles is from Chicago. No, he's not. He's from New York. Frankie, when he was a teenager, was best friends with Larry Levan. So the garage opened up. Larry Levan was the resident DJ there. And that club, along with the Gallery and the Loft, made such an impact that the world took notice. The UK, along with other clubs in Ibiza, because Paul Oakenfold went to the garage and then went to Ibiza. And what he was influenced from the garage and Ibiza, they took that to the UK. And they opened up 2 clubs that were equivalent to the Paradise Garage and the Loft. They wanted to duplicate what they saw, what Paul Oakenfold saw in the Paradise Garage and what they saw in Ibiza. The club that pretty much launched everything in the UK was called the Hacienda. That was kind of equivalent to the Paradise Garage because it was huge. The other club that was also influenced by what they saw in Ibiza and in New York, specifically more the Loft, was called Shoom. Shoom was more underground, was a little bit smaller, darker. So that's that. So in the mid-70s, Frankie Knuckles and Larry Levan, they were buddies. They were best friends. They were teenagers running around. And in their early 20s, they were playing at a lot of gay bars. Most notably was the Continental Baths. Okay. So when the Paradise Garage opened up, and I'm cutting a lot, just so you guys understand, I am cutting a lot because there's a whole other story between just those two, what was happening in New York, especially with the Continental Baths. So anyway, once the Paradise Garage opened up, during that time, Frankie Knuckles he couldn't get a residency. He was unemployed as a DJ, wasn't doing much. Okay. So this promoter named Robert Williams, he wanted to duplicate what was happening at the Paradise Garage. He wanted that to happen in Chicago. So when he reached out to Larry Levan, he goes, "Hey, Larry, I want you to play for me in Chicago. I'm making this club. It's going to be very similar to the Paradise Garage, which was a gay club." And, and Robert Williams wanted Larry Levan to come do it. Larry Levan said no. Larry Levan could not do it because even if he missed one night at the Paradise Garage, it would impact. It would make an impact because Larry was the glue that made the garage what it is. The reason why we're even talking about the garage today, it was because of Larry Levan. So Larry Levan told Robert Williams, "No, I can't do it. I cannot leave the garage even for one night. But my friend Frankie Knuckles, he knows everything I know. He plays what I play. He's not working. He doesn't have a job. He has no residency. Ask him. He'll do it." So Robert goes, "You know what? Okay, fine, cool." So Robert asked Frankie. Frankie said, "Of course." And that's when Frankie went to Chicago to play at this club that Robert Williams was doing. So I got some notes here. I want to make sure I get everything right. So
real quick, dude. Real quick. What kind of music were they playing in New York?
I'm gonna get into that.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna get into that. So I'm getting into that. So Frankie Knuckles went to Chicago and he started the residency. It was an after-hours club. Okay, Chicago has never had an after-hour club, and everything that Frankie was playing was the stuff that Larry Levan was playing up in New York. Okay, so when that club opened up, it was the first of its kind. It was predominantly black, predominantly gay, and it was an after hours. So it's a new way of partying in Chicago that they've never seen before, especially the music. Nowhere in the city you could hear that music other than the club that Frankie Knuckles was playing at. Okay, so when Frankie was playing at that club, and it was that music that was being played at that club was so exclusive, it was extremely exclusive to that particular club. You cannot hear that music anywhere else, nowhere else in the city but that particular club. So people were starting to associate the music that was being played at that club, okay, with the actual club itself, because you couldn't hear that music at XYZ club or ABC club. It was that particular club. So the name of that club was called The Warehouse. So people were associating that music that Frankie was playing to The Warehouse. It wasn't like people were not saying, "I want that music that Frankie's playing." No. People were saying, "I want that music at The Warehouse. Where can I get that warehouse music?" That's what they were calling it. They were calling it warehouse music. So basically what happened, there was a store in Chicago, a record store. that the owner started selling the music that Frankie Knuckles was playing. And he wanted to advertise in front of the store that the music that's being played at the warehouse was sold there. The problem was the space, and this is well documented. You could see it in many documentaries, okay? The space that he had to advertise that the warehouse music was sold at this store was too small. He couldn't fit the whole word. So what did he do? Instead of writing warehouse, he wrote house, because people were already chopping up the word. He's been hearing people calling it warehouse music. People were calling it house music. So he put house music sold there at this record shop, and that's when it launched. So here's the question. What was Frankie Knuckles playing at the warehouse? He was playing disco. So it's very important to know that the people in Chicago, when they were referring to house music, they were referring to disco. So the original house music style was disco. That's what Frankie was playing, and that's what people were calling it. So one of the biggest misconceptions is that Frankie Knuckles is responsible for the invention of house music. No, he's not, okay? It's very important to know that Frankie Knuckles did not invent house music. He's just responsible for giving it its name. Now, Frankie Knuckles made house music, of course, but he's not the one that invented it. Everybody was calling it house music because it was the music that Frankie was playing at the warehouse. And that's why he's the godfather of house music, not because he invented it. So, who invented it? Who created it? Who is the person responsible, or persons responsible for inventing house music, the house music that we understand it today? Well, officially, there really isn't someone that has said, okay, this is the guy that did it. But two people we have to mention. Number one, and that is Earl Young. In 1972, Earl Young, one of the biggest, I'm going to back up just a little bit, one of the biggest disco record labels was Philadelphia International. One of the drummers for that record label was Earl Young. Earl Young drummed for a lot of groups, okay? But Earl Young in 1972, he is credited for creating or inventing what we call the 4 on the floor beat. He's the one that created the toom, 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 toom. He called it the disco groove. That prior to that, there was no toom, toom, toom. He's the one that invented it. And you could hear, and the first song that you could hear that 4 on the floor disco groove was, oh, I'm stretching my back, was a song called The Love I Lost by, I have it right here, by Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, okay? You play that song, you'll hear the famous Earl Young kick. He's the one that is credited to create that kick, which is the basic kick that every single house track ever in the history of house music has, ever. It cannot really be a house track if it doesn't have that kick. And in 1972, Earl Young is the one credited to creating that kick. So, the other person that we also need to mention is Jesse Saunders. Again, unofficially, Jesse Saunders is credited to produce the first house record ever, as we understand what house music is today. Not a disco track that they were called house music because of the warehouse. No, what we understand what house music is today that has that kick. Jesse Saunders is credited to being the first producer to release the first ever house record, and that title was called On and On, and it was in 1984. So, who is the person responsible for creating house? Well, is it Jesse? No one's saying he is, but he's credited for producing the first house record. Is it Earl Young? No one's saying he's the one, but he is the one credited for creating that four on the floor kick that is used in every house, EDM, trance, whatever, techno. He's the one. But no one's saying he's the one that truly invented house music. So it's hard to say who is the one individual to really say, you know, this guy, he's the one that invented it. You could say it's a collaboration and a progression of music.
Yes.
But what I need to point out is I understand when going back to the disco, I understand what a lot of you, when I say disco, I know what you guys are thinking. You know, Taps, Forbidden Lover, Mandolay. No, that's not the disco that they were playing. As a matter of fact, the die-hard disco heads, they won't even call that disco. They'll call it like high energy or some other stuff. Okay, the disco that was being played at the Paradise Garage, at the Loft, at the Gallery, at the Warehouse, was a completely different sound than what you guys assume what the disco sound is. We're talking about artists like Mass Production, Salvetti, Idris Muhammad, Cloud One, Crown Heights Affair, First Choice, huge. I mean, they're probably the face of disco. First Choice, Debbie Jacobs, Change, Ronnie Harris, Aquarian Dream, AC Soul Symphony, T. Scott, Patrick Adams, Tom Moulton, Walter Gibbons. Those guys, those artists, the disco that they were producing, that's the disco that Frankie was playing. That's the disco that all these bars in New York in the gay black disco scene were playing. So the disco that's what people say, well, where did house music come from? They say it came from disco, okay? And it's true. It's true because that's not only because it came from the Warehouse and it got its name, because also the people in Chicago, they started making that music. And they were influenced by that disco, the disco that they were playing at the Warehouse, the disco that was playing at the Paradise Garage. So it's that disco, it's that disco that producers, the early pioneers of house music were getting influence from. They were sampling, and that emerged from Chicago. So one of the big question is, so where did that house music really come from? You know, people say, well, you know what, if it wasn't from New York, you know, Frankie wouldn't know what he was doing, blah, 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 blah. Everything Frankie knew is from New York. So it came from New York. And people say, well, then we call it house music because of the Warehouse. So that's also true. So it is documented and it's cemented in stone that the birthplace of house music is Chicago. No one's denying that because the Warehouse was in Chicago, and that's why we call it house music, because of the Warehouse. But again, a lot of the New York heads, well, dude, Frankie was playing everything that was coming out of New York. Frankie knew everything because he learned everything from New York. He learned everything from Larry. So it's kind of like this situation. So if I were to give you one bag, okay, no, let's just say I give you 3 bags. So in one bag, there's 2 pieces of bread, On another bag, there's jelly. And in another bag, there's peanut butter. I give you those three bags. You take those three bags, and then you take it to your house. And then you put those ingredients together. What do you have? Peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So the question is, where did the peanut butter and jelly sandwich come from? Did it come from the three bags that I gave you, or from your house when you put them together? You know, kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of a deal. You know what I mean? So there are arguments on both sides, okay? But what you cannot argue is house music got its name because of the warehouse, because they were calling it house music. And the house music that was being played was disco. And it's also very, very important to know that Frankie Knuckles did not invent it. He did not invent house music. He's the godfather of house music because he's responsible for giving it its name. So that's pretty much it. So it started with the gay riots, okay? The Stonewall riots, when the gays fought back, that made the mayor change the law, that made all these bars flourish to come out, that gave birth to the gallery, the loft, and the Paradise Garage, to Larry Levan saying no to Robert Williams and saying, hey, take Frankie instead. Frankie went to Chicago, did what he did. The name of the club was associated with the disco that Frankie was playing. That was, you couldn't hear it nowhere else. People started calling it warehouse music. From warehouse music became house music. So the original house music sound was disco. The producers or early producers of Chicago were influenced by that disco sound. They started creating their own music. Across the lake in Detroit, something very similar was happening. But instead of house music, the Chicago guys that were making music, that they were influenced by the disco, you had these Detroit guys, three in particular, that they were making music, but not being influenced by the disco sound. They were being influenced by the electronic European sound, by artists like Kraftwerk, Depeche Mode. Those were their influence. And those three guys, which is Juan Atkins, Derek May, Kevin Saunderson, the Belleville Three, they created techno. So from the influences of like Kraftwerk and Manuel Gotchen and again Depeche Mode, they created a different electronic sound that was not being influenced from the disco sound from the Chicago guys. And from those influences, those electronic artists like Kraftwerk, mainly Kraftwerk and Depeche Mode and other electronic European artists, these guys were influenced from them, and they created a completely different sound, and that's where Detroit techno came from. So the birthplace of techno is Detroit. The godfathers of techno are those three, the Belleville Three, Derek May, Juan Atkins, and Saunderson. Those are it. So Chicago is the birthplace of house music. The birthplace of techno is Detroit. So that's, in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. Now, you guys could Google, and there's documents, there are documentaries on all these things, and there's a documentary just on the gallery. There's a documentary just on the loft and on the garage and on the warehouse if you want to go to super, super detail. But that's pretty much it. That's basically the gist of it. Larry Levan said no to Chicago. Larry said, take Frankie with you. Frankie did it. The warehouse gave it its name. Earl Young, 1972, created that kick. Okay. Jesse Saunders was credited for the first ever house record to be produced called On and On. And yeah, Frankie Knuckles, the godfather of house music, but not because he invented it. So that's very important to understand. Frankie Knuckles is the godfather. but not because he invented it, because he's responsible for giving it its name. That's the story. So that's pretty much it. That's the story. I leave it up to you guys for questions and everything else. Oh, one more thing before we get into that. I'm sure this will probably pop up. I have another screen here just so I could see if anybody says anything. Give me 1 second here. So let me see. Let's see. So the other thing that happened in Chicago is Acid House. Okay, how that came about, purely accident. Okay, house music was already in full swing. DJ Pierre, along with a few of his buddies, they bought a machine. Okay, it was called the Roland TB 303. It was designed to create bass lines. So they bought it at a pawn shop. I think they spent $50. Okay, and they were utilizing it. They wanted to utilize it to create bass lines. So when they hooked it up, they didn't know what they were doing. So when they hooked it up, again, this is well documented. When they hooked it up, these sounds were coming out of the machine. So they wanted to either turn off the sounds or to minimize the sounds. As they were trying to figure out how to turn off those sounds, the sound that this machine was making, they heard what we call now the acid sound, and that blew their mind. They were like, "What is this?" You know. So as they were twisting and more the knobs, it was tweaking that sound more and more, and they fell in love with it. So these guys said, "You know what? Let's put a beat to it and let's make a record." But the problem was Pierre, specifically Pierre was like, "Who's gonna play this?" Because remember, the Chicago sound was still that very house, very disco-y influenced sound. Okay, who's gonna be playing this weird ass alien type music? Only one DJ, and again, this is another story, but only one DJ had the balls to play something like that, and that was Ron Hardy at another club called the Music Box. Ron Hardy and the Music Box in itself, that's another 5-hour documentary, another discussion. So, but we're going to leave it. We can leave that at a later date. However, so they made the record. They did not want to get. They knew Frankie Knuckles was not going to play it because Frankie Knuckles was very sophisticated. He was very. That was one of the biggest differences between the Warehouse and the Music Box. The Warehouse, Frankie Knuckles played this very sophisticated, very groovy, very soulful, disco-y type sound. The Music Box was the opposite. The Music Box was just boom, 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 boom all night. And Ron Hardy didn't give a fuck. He played whatever he played, how he played it. And his fans loved it. So they knew taking it to Frankie was pointless because they knew Frankie was not going to play it. So they took it, they gave it to Ron Hardy. And the legend goes, the story goes, that Ron Hardy played it 4 times that night. The first time he played it, the crowd, it cleared the dance floor. Everybody was like, what the fuck is this? Nobody danced to it. Cleared the floor. The second time he played it, the same thing. Everybody like, okay, what's Ron doing? Is he fucking with us? The third time he played it, he didn't clear the dance floor. But the dance floor was like, okay, what's going on? By the 4th time he played it, everybody lost their fucking minds. And that was the birth of Acid House. Pierre taking it to Ron Hardy. Ron Hardy having the balls like, no, you're going to hear it again. Nope, you're going to hear it again. You're going to hear it again. You're going to hear it until you love it. And that's exactly what happened. Because by the 4th time, again, this is well documented. By the 4th time, people at the Music Box lost their shit. And that was the birth of Acid House. The only thing I do not know is why they called it acid. I don't know that. That's the only thing. I don't know who came up with the name. Why did they call it acid? I do not know that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what I have to say as far as the history of house music and everything. Leave it up to you guys in questions, and if you guys want to get into the whole dead mouse topic, we could do that too.
Actually, I have a question. and you might know, you might not know. Obviously, you sound like you know what the F you're talking about. What was Saunders coming out with the first house record, correct? The house
Right,
record, correct?
right. He's credited. He's credited. It's not officially written in stone that that's it, but he's credited to doing it.
What was the difference of that record compared to like the stuff before? Obviously, we know set in stone that it was influenced by disco, and disco then we know died down. Homeboy did the Four on the Floor, forgot his name already, but Earl Young. So Earl Young did the Four on the Floor. Disco, Saunders is the guy that created the first one, or credited for having the first house record. What was the difference, you know, in the music to be like, okay, this is house music? You know what I mean? That was like a quick question, like, I wonder. Well, this is the first house music song or the house record. What differed from like maybe the disco that we're playing before or whatever?
You know what? That's a really good question. I could only compare it to what I know. I know what Frankie was playing. Okay, prior to that record, I know what Frankie was playing, and it was just typical disco.
Yeah.
The story behind that record is that Jesse had a record. I forgot the name of the record, but it was stolen. So he wanted to recreate that record. So on and on was basically Jesse's attempt to recreate the track of a record that was stolen from him. That's how On and On came about.
Okay.
Okay. And then from there, other people heard that record, and all of them said the same thing. I could do better than that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I could do better than that. And from there, that's where you got DJs like Larry Heard, okay, and people from that camp. They were hearing On and On, and they say, I could do better than that. And when they release a track, other producers says, hey, well, I could do the same thing. And that boom, 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 and that's how you got the whole house music coming out of Chicago. On and On, people heard it. They said, I could do something better than that, and that lit the flame. That was a domino effect.
Interesting. You know, I was watching a couple of these documentaries on YouTube and stuff like that, and one of them I remember they were interviewing some guys, and they were asking where the name house music came, right?
Right.
And and this is a very old video, so a lot of these guys were saying they called it house music because people were making these records in their homes. I
think I saw that clip.
Yeah, so
I think I did see a clip about that, and I'm like, are these people idiots?
Like,
who's releasing these videos that they don't know the story?
I mean, even though, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, nowadays, I guess if you keep saying the story enough times, people are going to believe it, right? I mean,
people are going to believe it, right?
Right, and it made sense to me because it's like, look, nobody was pressing these records for anybody. These guys were making these records almost like mixtapes, right? Like, these guys are making them at their homes. They were buying all these machineries to do it, and then in Chicago, obviously, there's basements, so they were making all these records in their basements. They would make the tracks, and they would put them on, and then they would put them on records, and then they would go out and peddle the records. But one of the things was like, oh yeah, they call it house music because people were making it in their house. Like, people just started producing these records in their house. Good story. I believed it, but you know, I think I was wrong. Suave came here to chin check me on that one.
and true, I do remember seeing that clip. So yeah, so obviously house music came because it was from the warehouse, and Techno and Juan Atkins said this straight out. Techno was short. It's an abbreviation for technology. because the Belleville Three, which again was Juan, Derek, and Kevin, they were not just into music; they were heavily into sci-fi. So when they all went to the same high school. Okay, they were heavily into sci-fi. That's why they became friends. They were all into Star Trek and Star Wars and anything sci-fi. So there was this book, which I forgot the name of the book, which they called the Techno Bible. And they're talking about technology. And that's where they came up with the word techno for technology. Because the kids from New York, from the producers from Chicago, again, it's all about the disco. These cats was Kraftwerk, Manuel Gotchen, and Depeche Mode and stuff like that. So it was from a completely different spectrum, more electronical, more experimental, more sci-fi, more technological, hence the word techno.
On the floor, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I wonder if it was like a Ron Hubbard book that they were reading.
No, this guy, I believe the book was called like The Third Wave or something like that.
If it wasn't like it was the birth of Scientology from that shit.
No. It was written, I want to say it was written like in the 60s or 50s.
Oh, okay.
I want to see what Gerry is saying. Okay. But yeah, that's the book that they based everything off of. They based everything off that book. But yeah, so technology, techno is short for technology.
What? And I'm gonna ask these questions you might not know, but
sure.
Questions you know a lot more than I do, and it might spark conversations with other people. I see the Pachuco 3000 is joining us right now, and he's very knowledgeable about music like that as well. What's the love affair with Europe and house music that was, it did so crazy amazing in Europe, and yet it still wasn't a big deal. I guess it was a big deal in certain areas in the States, but I mean, Europe just like took off with all that shit, man. It's just insane.
It's a cultural difference. I mean, techno and house music was created here in the U.S., but it took years and years and years for this country to really appreciate it. The U.K. right away. I mean, they fell in love with it instantly, to a point that when the European, where to start? Well, I'm going to go back and forth. So to a point where these house producers from Chicago started getting invited to go to Europe, to go to the UK.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
Their first thought was like, are they black people in Europe? There's no black people in the UK. Do white people like house music? That was their thought. Because that's the other thing you guys got to understand. House music, the roots of house music, is just as black rooted as hip hop and R&B. Mm-hmm. Okay, with the addition of the gay scene. Okay, so that's why I was posting the roots of house music is gay, black, disco. Those are the elements that gave birth to everything that we see here today. Okay, so when the UK started inviting these guys to go over there and perform and play, they were shocked that a bunch of white people were liking their music. And the thing is, once it was big in the UK and America started getting wind of it, they thought, America as a whole, as a general, they thought that this music was coming out of the UK from white producers. They had no idea it was really coming from black producers in their own hometown. Mm-hmm. Okay, so there's a story. Jamie Principle made a huge track called Your Love. When that track was being played in Chicago, everybody thought Jamie Principle was some dude from the UK. They had no idea he was one of their own. So again, so yeah, I think it's just a cultural difference that that the UK embraced house music, techno instantly, and it just took years and years and years for America to you know to to catch on. These guys were treated like rock stars in the UK. David Morales, when he would go to Italy, he would get mobbed, and in New York, he could just walk down the street and nobody not know who he is. So yeah, I say, because it's just the cultural differences. You know, America is rock and roll. You know what I mean? At that time, it was all about rock and roll and the house music and all that. It just took years and years for America to really catch on.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy because I see that a lot. You know, I know a lot of it had a lot of the that push, that stuff was also the big push of what was it at Comiskey Park when they burned down all the records for the day that disco died.
Exactly.
That all
Exactly.
To kind of give way to the house movement in Chicago. It happened in Chicago.
Right. That was Steve Dahl. Yeah. Okay, so basically Steve Dahl got pissed because the radio station where he was at was a rock station, and they changed the format into disco. So he got pissed, and yeah, he did the disco demolition at Comiskey Park. And again, that right there, that little incident right there, that's a 2-hour conversation with a 2-hour documentary. That goes deep into the whole house movement too, because that was a huge part.
This is crazy, man. It doesn't make sense, I guess, at the time until it happens after, how all these certain elements kind of line up to create something. And like you said, peanut butter jelly and bread, it takes one person to put it together to make it something, right? But three things and three different things. It almost like it in a whole from everything that's happened from, you know, the Stonewall issues to, you know, Frankie going to Chicago, to, like, you know, certain elements of it to create it, to put it into one, what we enjoy now as house, and then what it has become now. You know what I mean? The evolution of house, of all this other stuff, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah. And somebody posted the other day, I think they were just making fun. They said Chicago invented it, but L.A. perfected it. And no, Chicago invented it, Detroit invented it, but Europe is the one that perfected it. They took what this country created and just ran with it, you know. And then later on, New York also started blowing up, making incredible music. But if anybody perfected it, it would be Europe. I mean, they really gave it a runaround. They almost rebranded it. You know, they took the disco thing, what Chicago was doing. They took what Detroit was doing, and man, they took it to a whole nother level.
I'm gonna be honest. I look at it more like it's, let's just take rock and roll that we all know, and from rock and roll surge so many sub genres and sub that, right? And I feel like house music and techno, like cousins, right? But then from there, depending on the area, is what created the music to, you know, what it was or what it is, in a sense. You know, house music, deep house, progressive house, bass house, future house. I mean, there's so many houses, because depending on who grabbed it and added their sense to it, like you said, I could make it better. So Europe just took it to a whole different, you know, spectacle. But because they had the people, these are my personal opinion, they have the people that are already in love with it so much, and then the struggles here in the United States still happen till not so long ago, man. I wouldn't want to say that house was probably in certain areas dope, and then around it wasn't. Like, we'll say Chicago, the birth of house when I met guys from Chicago, I thought they were hip hop dudes, and no, they were house heads. They just looked like hip hop dudes. But in New York, they had their music coming out, but then New York had hip hop, so it wasn't even like a major deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
You put it in like a different area, then you get the Latino influence in it, and the white boy influence, and you know, and it all creates its own little genres, man. I feel like I think everybody puts their own sazon into it to make it a little different, you know?
Yeah, and that's exactly what UK did.
Mm-hmm.
They took house, and from house, the UK came up with subgenres of it. Breakbeat, like the down-tempo stuff, jungle, drum and bass, all that came from the UK. Different styles of techno, faster, harder, more melodic sounds, more industrial sounds. That industrial, you listen to Detroit techno, the authentic Detroit techno, and you listen to the early techno that you guys would know, like the James Brown is Dead and the Asin and all that's UK. And you listen to the Detroit sound, sounds nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds nothing like that. It sounds more computery. It sounds more digital. You listen to the early Detroit techno stuff. But Europe, the UK, especially Belgium and Germany, man, they came up with all this other stuff, and those countries surrounding them, they did the same thing. Well, I could do something better than that, you know? And it just grew from there. It was a huge domino effect from everybody trying to outdo everybody else. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, so you're right. They created their own subgenres. Mm-hmm. They had their own vision, their own style. They took something like, ooh, okay, I like that boom, 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 but I want to add this. Instead of a disco thing, instead of a Kraftwerk thing, I'm going to add some other shit to it. And that created something else, and on and on and on and on.
Yeah, dude, it's nice to know the basis of where it comes from and how it was put together, and then everybody's going to touch it and do different things to it. You know, Latin house, you got, funny thing, hard house. The other day, just to fuck around, I went and I put Hard House 2023. Bro, I was like, what the, this ain't Hard House, dude. What the fuck is this? Like, I thought it was techno. And then my homeboy, Jose Too Hype, he did a mix the other day. He sends me over. He's like, oh, dude, this is that new techno coming out. And I'm listening to it, and bro, it's fucking house. It's like house music. And I'm like, this is techno? He's like, yeah, it's techno. Dude, I can't even tell anymore, bro. I can't even tell, dude. Like, yeah, all right, dude. If you say so, you're the DJ. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Crazy.
Yeah, but there's all kinds of subgenres and of everything. You know, there's like 30 different styles of techno. There's 30 different styles of house, and they're going to be more. And as music progresses and time goes on, it's just going to be more. There's going to be more and more and more. People are going to come up with new ideas and new sounds, and they're going to call it something else. You know, they're going to call it future-based melodic techno. I don't know, whatever the fuck. You know what I mean?
The only reason I know there's all that shit is because my buddy let me go into his BPM Supreme, and then you could it like sets it by genres, right? So I'm like,
okay.
Future house, bass house, melodic house, progressive house. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Deeper than house? Like, what is going on? Like, well, I'm gonna start making records, or like not records, but MP3s now. I'm gonna make an MP3 to just call whatever the fuck I want, right? Yeah, it's hard now, man, because I get it growing up, you know, it's like, oh, what are you into? Oh, I'm into house music or deep house. It was very simple. Like for me here in Vegas, it was house, deep house. It was house, deep house, hard house, Latin house. Like we could tell the difference. And for us, we didn't have the radio stations or anybody to tell us what house was and what house wasn't. We just kind of like figured it out by the buddies and the DJs and the people coming in from other states here to Vegas. But, you know, nowadays it's like I'm hanging out and the younger crowd got the boys playing some old hard house and the DJ plays hard style. And I have no fucking clue what hard style is still to this day. But he's looking at us like, dude, what's that? Like, this is classic hard house. Mm-hmm. Hard house? Like, yeah, this is 90s hard house, dude. Like, this is the shit, bro. Like, this is what we used to listen to. And he got into it. He's like, man, this is dope. Like, I'm going to take some of these and put them on my new tracks that he's making. So, once again, he keeps, doing all this shit.
Before I forget, for those of you that really want to know all the stuff that I skipped and get to the real detailed stuff, there's a few documentaries I think you guys should check out. One is an old school one. It was very popular, but it's not the story of house from. It's basically the story of house and dance music as a whole. Okay, and that's Pump Up the Volume. Okay, it's about 2 hours long. I'm sure most of you have seen it. If not, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It's older. It's kind of outdated, but it's something cool to start. If you're going to start watching documentaries, start with that. The other one is called Maestro. Now, that's a documentary not from house music from A to Z. It's a documentary of house music from A. Basically, it's a documentary of Larry Levan and the Paradise Garage. It's called Maestro. That came out, I want to say, maybe 15 years ago or something like that. You should check that one out. The other one is fairly new. It's fairly new. I think came out like maybe 3-4 years ago. It's a 3-part documentary. Each part is an hour long. It's called Can You Feel It? Okay, it's called Can You Feel It? How dance music, I think it's called Can You Feel It? How dance music took over the world or some shit like that. But it's called Can You Feel It? And it's in 3 parts. The first part is called The Beat. The second part is called The DJ. The third part is called The Club. So they really break it down. They really break it down from the start, which they talk about Earl Young, and they go into the DJ, and then they go into the club, and they go from the loft all the way to the big monstrosity clubs and festivals that we see today. Because all that, if you go to Exchange E.L.A., you go to Academy, you go to all these big clubs, all these clubs and big festivals that you see, is because of the Paradise Garage, because of the gallery, the loft. They set the mold. They set the mold to everything that we see today. Everything. The way the DJs play, the way the sound systems are set up, everything is attributed to the loft, the gallery, and the Paradise Garage, especially the Paradise Garage. The same thing with the Hacienda and Shun out in the UK. They set the tone for everything that we see today.
I wonder how hard it is to find all those cats. I don't know if most of them are alive or, onto a better place, but reaching out to those old school cats and getting like their perspective on it would be fucking pretty dope.
Well, you know what? That's how I know a lot of the history, because especially going to Miami for the conference for all those years, I talked to people that were there. I talked to people that were members of the loft, members at the garage. I talked to people that were there at the Music Box when they were there when Ron Hardy was doing all this innovative stuff. I mean, Ron Hardy, this guy, what he would do, this is one of the tricks that Ron Hardy would do, because, again, Ron Hardy and Larry Levan are considered to be the 2 greatest DJs that have ever lived, to have ever done it. Okay, even to this day. Ron Hardy has done stuff back in those days that no DJ today would dare do. One of the things that Ron Hardy would do, he would get a cap from a spray paint, from a spray can, put it in the middle of the record, on the turntable, put the record on top of that cap of the spray paint cap, grab the needle, turn it upside down, and place the needle under the record, and he would play records like that. I mean, those are just the things that he would do. One of the things he would do, he would grab the tone arm, he would grab the needle, and he would bounce it on the record. And people would be already so amped at his club that when he would do that, you'd be like, oh shit, that's Ron doing some crazy shit, and they would just go crazy. They would just go nuts. No DJ would dare do anything like that today. But Ron, he had that crowd on his side that there was nothing he could do wrong. Nothing. And that gave him the motivation to do all kinds of crazy shit. Obviously, of course, the people that know the story, he was high as fuck, okay, as he was doing this, okay. So because of the crowd and the crowd that loved him so much, yeah, he was able to do all these things, and the crowd would just love it.
Dude. Hey, I mean, you got to be expressive, you got to be creative, and you got to set yourself different from, other people. For us, the only time I saw something crazy here in Vegas, we had Alex Peace came in, and as he was DJing, he set one of the records on fire. And when I interviewed him on here, I was like, "Hey man, remember when you set the record on fire?" He's like, "Yeah, bro, I know you have mentioned it, dude, but I don't remember, man." I was like, and I'm like, dude, and everybody remembers that because like he came in. My buddy, DJ Tone was running the lights that day, and he told him, he's like, "Hey, shut all the lights off." And Tone's like, "Okay." So he went to turn off the lights, and all of a sudden you see him like setting one of his records on fire, and we're like, "Oh shit!" And of course the promoters are like, "Dude, you gotta go get the fucking extinguisher. This dude's gonna say." This rave was held in a place called Planet Plywood. It was a skate park. Skate park, but it was all made out of fucking plywood, dude. And here you got a DJ setting a record on fire, bro. Like, dude, it was crazy. But
wow,
you have to set yourself apart. You know what I mean? Whatever it is. And some people, you got your crazy artists, not crazy, just different artists, and people don't care what the hell, as long as it makes sense to them, they'll push it.
Yeah.
Frankie Knuckles set the circus disco DJ booth on fire, spilled tequila and cigarettes.
You know what? We might be changing the subject a little bit here, but I talked to a few DJs. And again, this goes to the East Side. Remember, we're talking about the East Side and West Side scene? Okay. In regards to the East Side, with Gerry mentioning Frank Del Rio, I've been hearing that name a lot, and I was it sucked that I never got a chance to hear him. I never met him. I never heard him play. But the DJs that spoke about him, they spoke about him in the same way the West Side crowd would talk about Doc. Okay. And I was like, man, and then when I found out he passed away some time ago, I felt bad because I wanted to hear this guy play. And I heard this guy was the man. He was this, he was that, and everything. And now that Gerry mentioned him, it just took me back because I mean, man, that's one DJ I would have really loved to hear, because as a DJ, you want to hear what these people are talking about. As a DJ, if somebody's saying, "Oh, this guy's the greatest shit," I want to hear it then. I want to hear this guy, And Frank Del Rio is one of those DJs that I wish I would have heard, because I wanted to experience what these guys are talking about. Because the way I talk about Doc or whoever, that's how these guys talk about Frank Del Rio, And it's just unfortunate that I never got a chance to watch him play.
I know Meraz has a book that I got a chance to kind of like read certain things about that evolution in that party scene and the DJs of the California area, the Los Angeles area. And I know that we after all this I interviewed him and said we were going to come back and talk about that book. So I think it's time there, Meraz, to get at it and talk about that book, man, because I think now where we're at with these pages and the shit that we've been doing, I think it's time for us to kind of like sit back a little bit. And I appreciate you wanting to do this because it kind of slows everything down for us again and really go back to, you know, the foundations of what we do here now. You know what I mean? And I think it's time to go back a little bit and start doing that stuff.
Yeah,
DJ.
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. So let's try to switch gears here. And if anybody wants to get into the whole deadmau5 situation.
So what's this deadmau5 situation? Because I know I had posted a video about this guy talking about guys that do these preset, you know, sets, right? And
right.
From my experiences and what I've seen, going back to like my father was in the radio business here in Vegas. He was a radio disc jockey. And I remember going to a lot of these events they would have. I'm not going to mention any famous names, but they would do playbacks during their events. And they would have like the fake microphone, and then they would do the thing. So for like, I've seen it in Siempre Domingo. I've seen it in Sábado Gigante. Like, I've seen it live where people they have the playback.
Right.
And they're acting like they're doing it. So I wouldn't see it being far-fetched that DJs would do that now too. You know what I mean? But I mean, I saw two DJs that we all know during the pandemic that did this whole show on Facebook, I think, and it was just a playback. It wasn't really them, you know, DJing, but they were acting like they were DJing. So, you know, I don't see it like it wouldn't be, you know.
Well, what deadmau5 was saying was very similar to what you're saying, but he basically said that almost every single DJ at every big festival is playing a pre-recorded set. And that's just not true.
Yeah.
It's not. It's just not. There's over 250 DJs at EDC. Okay? I would say maybe 20 of them are doing pre-recorded sets. Okay? That's where I completely disagree with him, because he basically generalized everybody. All the festival DJs are playing pre-recorded set. No, they're not. But I do understand those that do in a certain context, because he did say the reason why they're doing pre-recorded set is because they want, especially the big names like Swedish House Mafia, Guetta, and even deadmau5 himself. He basically said that those DJs do it because they want to synchronize, they want to be in sync with the production that's around them. The fireworks, the certain displays, the lights and all that. Swedish House Mafia, I remember an interview a few years back, they said that all their shows, like the last 15 or 20 minutes, is a pre-recorded set because it's in sync with the fireworks and all that. In that situation, yeah, I give them a pass. I give them a pass. If that's the reason why you're going to do a pre-recorded set for the last portion of your show, no problem. But to me, pre-recorded sets, there's 3 reasons why. 1, lazy. 2, they don't know how to mix. And 3, what I just explained, they want to be everything in sequence with the whole production. So they get a pass if they get the whole production, if that's what they want to do, you know. But what I find interesting in deadmau5, he's saying, because he opens up in the clip that you posted, in the clip that's going around everywhere, you know, he's reading a comment saying, he's reading someone's comment saying, if you use a pre-recorded set, you're not a real DJ. And then deadmau5 goes, really? Says who? Who are you? Like the DJ police? You know? So he's defending pre-recorded set DJs, which is funny because about 4 or 5 years ago, he put, I wonder if I say this name correct, Nervo. It's a duo, female DJ duo. He put those chicks on blast for what he thought they were doing a pre-recorded set. He went on Facebook, he went on Instagram, on YouTube. He was blowing up these 2 girls. You guys are fake. Look at you. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, it turns out that they weren't doing a pre-recorded set. It turns out that they weren't. They just hooked up their gear completely in a different way. And somebody on YouTube duplicated the way they did it and showed them, see, it looks like it's a pre-recorded set, but he explained everything. So it's funny how Deadmau5 just a couple years ago was putting these chicks on blast for what he thought was a pre-recorded set, and now he's defending pre-recorded sets. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just weird. I'm like, yeah. So I understand what Deadmau5 is saying, and I agree. You know, a lot of them, they do it because of their whole production. They want this. They want the certain drops of the tracks to go with the fireworks and this and that. And yeah. So are there a lot of DJs that are not doing that with the production, but they still do pre-recorded sets? Absolutely. In what you were talking about, what you would see in Sábado Gigante and stuff like that, you see DJs on certain shows that they're not there to DJ. They're there as a prop. Mm-hmm. And people are saying, see, he's a fake DJ. He's a fake DJ. No, he's meant to be there as a prop, not a DJ. He gets a pass. I remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago, David Guetta was getting shitted on because he was DJing at, I think it was at a beauty pageant, and the camera caught him on the decks and nothing was on. Okay. He gets a pass. He's just there because he's the artist. He's the name. He's just there to say, look at me, look at me. He's not there to DJ. He's there to be a prop. So in that aspect, he also gets a pass. If you're there to be a prop, you get a pass. I've seen so many pictures and videos of these DJs on talk shows and all these other TV shows where nothing is hooked up. And then they're shitting on the DJ. Well, no, dude, he's meant to be a prop. He's not there to DJ. So they get a pass. You know, that's just my 2 cents on it.
How many times have you been a prop?
Every single time I play, I'm a prop.
It's not me. It's a midget under the table who's DJing for me. I mean, little people.
I'm going to change my name to DJ Prop.
You know, I honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. I think sometimes people just hold on to a lot of bullshit for no fucking apparent reason and want to create something issues out of it. That's my personal opinion. If you know he's a DJ and he's done all this work and he's done all these productions and sometimes he's just going to show up to spin the record or act like he's spinning the record, but we damn well know that that's his mixing. If you're a real fan, you know that's his mixing. That's how he does it. You know, it's the same thing with the whole fight with the vinyl versus board versus CDJs. It's like, dude, like everybody does it different. Everybody's playing music. Right. You know, enjoy it, man. But it's always something, you know, that little thing. I think that to get your name up there's a lot of struggles. There's a lot of fighting. There's a lot of, like, nobody gets Calvin Harris. They didn't give Calvin Harris just, here you go, bro. They didn't give Marshmello like, oh, here you go. You're now a star. You know what I mean? Like, you got to struggle and climb up that ladder to get the opportunity to not DJ and just stand there. Hey, cool with me, dude. You know, fuck it. Like, you did it. You made it. That's all that counts, you know? But
yeah. I don't
know.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the sync. You know what I mean? The same thing with the sync. If I use a sync button, which I haven't used it yet, okay, I'm curious to see how it works. I haven't tried it yet, but maybe one day I will. But if I were to use a sync button, I mean, who's gonna criticize me for not knowing how to mix? I mean, come on. Unless they don't know me, obviously. Then if they have no idea who I am or my history, maybe. But for those that know, I mean, are they going to say, oh, Suave's using sync because he can't mix? Come on. You know what I mean?
You still have to have knowledge, dude. Like, I fuck with it. Been fucking with it. I don't, because I'm not a DJ, but I want to know what the hell, like, oh, bad thing. But it's like, the songs better be in key and they better be close in speed for it to work. Because if you get something that's like, you know, 130 and you got and you're doing a 124, dude, the song is going to be cool in sync, but it's going to drop it down to 124. It's going to sound like shit. You know what I mean? You got to know what the fuck you're doing with that shit too. It's not just like magically I'm going to push a sync button and everything's going to just combine itself. No, it doesn't work with the speed. If you're on the 124 and the other one's 130, it's going to drop it to 124. So it does mess with it, you know? It's still something. Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I may or may not give it a shot. You know, who knows? Like I said, maybe I will if I feel that using sync. I mean, I already don't use headphones anyway, so might as well use sync.
How dare you, bro? You ain't real, man. I heard that shit already. You ain't real. Look at the headphones. He doesn't even know what the fuck.
So who knows? I mean, if by using sync allows me to be more free, to be more creative, because I don't have to worry about keeping 2 tracks on beat, then hey, maybe. I don't know. Maybe. So I mean, I think I'm at a point now that I don't need to prove to nobody I know how to mix. I mean, who, you know what I mean? You know, look, one of my favorite DJs, I mean, Richie Hutton uses sync. Francois Kevorkian uses sync. So who's going to tell them that they don't know how to mix? They've been doing it for almost 50 years. You know what I mean? So I think I'm in that situation too. I've been doing this since the mid-'80s. I know how to mix. I don't need to prove to nobody I know how to mix because I already know. I mean, come on. So who knows? Maybe one day I'll say, you know what? Let me try this sync situation.
I'm glad you brought that up. Like, I'm glad you brought that up. That it buys you some time to be able to do knob work or, you know, set another track in the back. Now you're getting on 3 CDJs or 4 CDJs, or the boards now have 4 channels, one on top of the other pattern. I mean, it does make sense that maybe I want to do this something crazy. Let me throw in the sync. Let me worry about coming in the beat right, and then it'll fix itself. And you know, I feel that.
If it allows me to be more technical, if I don't have to worry about these 2 tracks being on beat because it's already doing it, that allows me to focus on these 2 other CDJs, and I could do some other shit while these 2 are playing. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I might try it. Who knows?
Hey,
who knows? Because I try to be as technical as I can.
The real Steve? Yeah, dude, like Steve Solis. Yeah, bro, it happens, man. I mean, I like that. That's the drunk. Instead of sync, they should call it the drunk button, bro. The up button. That's funny.
Yeah, so Gerry's saying if you're using technology, then use technology. You know, yeah, I mean, sure. Like I said, I may or may not give it a shot. I'm not going to say no. But, yeah, like I said, if it allows me to be more technically inclined, because I try to be as technical as I can. I know what my limits are. You know, I'm not trying to be James Hype or Juicy M or anything like that, okay? But I know what I can and cannot do, technically wise. I really don't need 4 CDJs. With 3, I could get pretty creative. But if sync is allowing me the freedom to focus on other things while the sync over here is doing its job, then yeah, that's something that I might want to, you know, check out. You know, not that I'm going to be the next Roger Sanchez as far as technicality wise, but you know, yeah, and you know, I might want to check that out.
You know, that's a good way of putting it. Like, I'm not going to lie to you that I've never heard that take on it as you being like a DJ, you know, and you know, proving yourself right to say, shit, it could buy me time to do other shit that I want to do for the crowd or for whatever. Fuck it. Like you said, you get a pass. Like, you're going to use it. At the end of the day, you're never always going to have the sync button. And, you know, most of these DJs, I think that they're complaining about are these house DJs, these, you know, bedroom DJs they call it, just fucking around, pushing buttons, you know, having a good time. That's a good way of putting it, dude. I like that.
Yeah, Gerry just said, you know, don't do basic. I try not to do basic. You know, I've been doing basic throughout the 90s. And then now with the CDJs and the loop feature and all that, just the basic loop feature itself, that gave me more ideas to be a little bit more creative. Yeah. And then now now that I am enhancing my limited technical skills in looping and layering loops on top of loops and using acapellas and all that, yeah, man, if the sync is going to give me the freedom to do other things and I don't have to worry about this being on beat, hey, you never know. You never know.
You have to move with technology, man. And unfortunately, like you could hold the classics. You're always gonna hold, like I'm always gonna hold the candle to your disc jockeys that do it on turntables, and they do it on 4 turntables, and then they got a crew that does it, and they're scratching and they're making their own beats up. You know what I mean? I'm always gonna hold the candle to those guys. But as evolution comes, there's reasons why all these new technologies for these controllers and these CDJs that are coming out with the new shit that's coming out, all the new, take a piece from this song and just take the words from this song, and now you could just literally carrying them around and put them in other tracks. Like, that's there for a reason.
Yeah. I'm down to use technology as much as I can, but one thing I will not do, I will not be on a laptop. That's for damn sure. I will not be on a laptop, and I will not go the controller route. That's for damn sure. You know, I've seen the setups, like Chris Sleepy, for example, from Germany. He's got a pretty sick setup on his controllers, because the controllers he uses are not the controllers that you are familiar with. Mm-hmm. He uses Tractor, and his controller is a different apparatus. Tractor, yeah. So it's a different way of using a controller, or having a controller. It's completely different. And the same thing with Nicole Madaber. But like specifically Chris Levy, this guy, I mean, he sounds like a wizard, you know, because he's utilizing every aspect of technology. I don't know if I want to go that route. Then you have DJs like Richie Houghton, who takes that shit to the upteenth level. Richie Houghton doesn't use CDJs, doesn't use a controller, this guy has, it's like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with, back in the 90s, a famous keyboardist named Yanni. Okay, Yanni, famous keyboardist. When you go to his concerts, he's got like 5 keyboards in front of him, 5 on his left, a group on his right, and a bunch of keyboards behind him. So he's surrounded by keyboards, right? Well, Richie Houghton is something similar. He has all these contraptions around him. So he's playing and creating music at the same time. Okay, that I'm convinced Richie Houghton is not human. That guy's from another planet, okay, because it's just phenomenal what he does. I'm not going to go that route. I'm not even going to try to go that route, okay? But yeah, I agree with Gerry. Try not to be basic and utilize technology as much as you can. And yeah, DJ Suave with the sync button coming to a club near you.
Doing a playback.
Doing a playback.
Yeah, look, no hands. I'm DJ with no hands.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like I said,
Kink. Oh yeah, see, that's another one. Kink is another one that's not as the level of Richie Houghton, but he has a bunch of stuff in front of him, and he's creating music and playing music at the same time. Kink is also one of my favorite too. The guy's extremely talented. The guy's pretty badass.
I gotta go to more like, I feel like, because I DJ on boards. Like I said, I'm not a DJ. I just fuck with it because it's fun. But I see these guys with boards, and they do the most fucking crazy shit. So to me, it's like it's their instrument, right?
Right.
Instrument, just like the turntables, just like the CDJs, like certain boards, certain operation systems, like Engine, Tractor, Record Box, Serato. Like, they all have these things, and these guys practice and do so much on this board or whatever they're using that they take it to the extreme that not everybody could do. They have it, but not every guy that drives a fast car is fast in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got to give props to those guys as well, man. It's just, we can't get elitist, because that's what kills. I feel like kills a movement or something when you start becoming an elitist for certain things and being like, nah, man, you sync button users, F you guys, or, it's like, it's their style. You don't fuck with them, you don't fuck with them. But I don't feel you gotta be like those guys that are like, you guys are shit, this and that. Hey, they're just figuring it out their own way. If they make it to the top, by being a sync DJ, then cool, man, you did it. You know, it worked for them. You know, but
Yeah,
you can't cheat in
yeah,
the system.
I've said this before. I would say within the next 20 years or so, the traditional art of mixing is going to be a lost art.
Dude, AI is already on it.
Yeah, I mean, why, there's no reason for a new DJ starting off today to learn traditional mixing by ear. There is none. There is none. So I say within the next 20 years, for sure, 30 years, DJs mixing traditionally by ear, I think it's just going to be a lost art form.
Mm-hmm. No, dude, I totally agree with you.
It's going to be extinct.
I posted a video of this robot DJ, and it's a straight out robot AI doing DJing. That's where, you know, it unfortunately is going to be like the lost arts of mixing, and like you don't even need a damn like headphones now, bro. Just look at the wavelengths and plug them in at the right time and have at it, you know. So
see, now Gerry disagrees. He thinks it's not going to be a lost art form. He thinks that traditional mixing is going to last forever. I don't know. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I understand us DJs of a certain age that have kids or whatever, and they want to be DJs, they're going to teach them, and they're hoping that their children will teach their children the same thing, and that'll keep the tradition alive. Yeah, dude, okay, if not 30 years, then for sure 50 years, it'll be a lost art form. I just don't see it lasting that long. It's not, because technology is taking, like you said, AI is coming into the whole thing. Pretty soon, from what I hear, you could get this AI thing, and AI could make a track for you. You don't have to do shit. You just put your name on it, and there it is. There's my track. I mean, you know what I mean? So who knows how many DJs are going to come up that way? Yeah. AI did this track, but my name's on it. There it is. You know? Hey, so yeah. So I don't know, Gerry. You disagree? Cool. I just don't see it. I just don't.
Yeah, man. It's scary, you know, being in this in what we do, and the creativeness is it might be going flying out the door, and they might start with a little, you know what, I'm almost done with this track, but let me give it to AI and let me see if they can finish it for me, because I can't really get it done. Before you know it, they're doing all the tracks for them, and here's your name on it, you know?
Yeah.
20 years ago, we had CDJs come out, and everyone thought it was over for vinyl. Doc and Powertools told us, nope, there will be parties where only vinyl will be played. Yep.
Yeah, true. And let me tell you something. I thought the first time that I saw Doc play strictly on CDJs, which was at Sound, I want to say maybe 8-9 years ago or something like that. When I saw Doc do that, that's when I said, that's it. Vinyl is done. Vinyl is completely done. No, vinyl is not completely done. But at the same time, vinyl, I don't know if you can compare vinyl to a method of mixing. You know, vinyl is something obtainable, something you could touch, something you could perform on, something you could utilize. You know what I mean? It's something tangible. You know, traditional ear mixing, I don't see it as vinyl. So yeah, I don't know.
I remember, because a lot of my buddies that I hung out with were DJs. I remember when Serato came out for the turntables, and that was like a big change in, and just like, I just need these two see-through vinyls and put them on, and you know, we'll move the music through the computer. Like, what the fuck? What is going on here? And going back to vinyl now, fuck, man, it's like $30-40 for a fucking record now, man. $50 for $100. Dude, it's like, dude, and they're not even original. They're like remastered or whatever, redone and shit. Is like, what the fuck? So when I could go on, I mean, it's just me being me. I could go on YouTube and download a bunch of fucking songs. I could pay $30 a month and get 10,000 songs whenever I need it. You have the board that I'm using that Newmark with the engine. dude, I could plug into Tidal, to Amazon, to
Mm-hmm.
you know, all that, and
Right.
just I have an account with them. Pull the music from there. It's like, fuck, this is crazy.
This is $10 million worth right here. What you're looking at? Oh, yeah. See, with the what 50 years of hip hop to okay, yeah. Now I get what Gerry's saying. I get what Gerry's saying. You know, I never said that vinyl was gonna go away like the dodo bird. I was just surprised when I saw Doc not play vinyl for the first time, and I thought, man, that's it, vinyl is done. But I never really did feel that vinyl was just going to disappear. No, even in the early 2000s, when technology was really creeping in and Serato was starting to take over, even back then, we were talking about, yeah, vinyl might take a little pause, but it's going to come back.
Yeah.
It may not come back the way it was in the 90s, okay, but it's not going to go away. And I agree with that. I agree with that. But I just, like, again, I just don't equate vinyl with ear mixing. Two completely different things.
Hey, Meraz, you want to jump on? Because we want to hear your beautiful voice. Go put on your face real quick and jump on, dude. I'll send you an invite. People want you on, my friend.
Gerry's doing his dad bod right now.
His dad bod mix.
He's doing his dad bod mix.
I just sent him an invite. You know, there he is.
I'm kind of naked here, bro. It's late.
Here. What's up, brother?
Man, you guys are talking all kinds of shit, forgetting the West Coast, forgetting the raza, forgetting, you know.
Well, we're not, you know, this is just the history of it. We're not going to go into the whole 90s.
Talking better. God damn it.
So if you want to take over from the 1990s on, handle it.
No, man, no. We gotta give props to Louis and Jolly Bean in the 80s, even, bro. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. Yeah, the Fun House. Can't forget about the Fun House.
Desire, come on, bro.
Can't forget about the Fun House. Well, like I said earlier when I first started this, you know, there's a lot of things I'm going to cut off. I'm just going to stick to the meat and potato.
Records did. Come on. All the Tijuana presses that pressed all the fucking Canadian stuff and, you know, kept that, you know, Italo and Electro going. You know, it's undeniable, bro. We've always been up on it, bro. We just didn't have the marketing and the magazines that the East Coast does, you know, to put it out there. We were just competing. That's the thing, is that we're super competitive. And that's what propels the art. If you're not trying to up that next guy or that guy above you, that's when the art dies. But that competitive edge, man, interviewing all of these DJs that I've done over the years, man, very few today have that competitive edge. And that's why the art is suffering. Because, dude, when I interviewed RAW and he was like, dude, I'd literally go around and try to battle anybody who I heard was good. And Richard did the same. And Bill did the same. And all these guys who pushed that mix were doing that. And then you take it back to the Mondo Nemesis, who did it with sound system and the DJ. You know, I'm going to have the best sound system. I'm going to have the best light show. I'm going to do the best mixing. And Mondo, even back then, would coordinate his mixing with his light man. And he just show him the record, and the light guy would go, I know what to do. It wasn't pre-mixed. He'd show him the record and be like, I want to do this. And the guy would be like, okay, do it. I'll have the strobe light ready. I'll have the smoke machine ready. I'll have this ready. Do it in a pre-program, dude, because you're playing for the crowd. You're responding to the crowd. You know, pre-programming, that's an entertainer. Because, yeah, you don't want to fuck up. You have a routine. You have a dance. You're ready for Vegas, bro. But that's not what we're about. We're always about that crowd in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I agree. I would agree. A lot of this stuff happens, and you're right. The competitiveness has to change everything. That's what pushes like you said, the art form and keeps creating new shit. Like we were going back and saying, how many more genres of house music came up? You know, forget the sonic.
Well, it's not even about genres, dude. Because it's like a lot of these genres I saw just made up by magazines and record labels for marketing. because you can't keep saying, oh, we got a new house record, we got a new house record, we got this new thing called, what was that weird one, something bag, there was like Blip House, and there was there's some just stupid shit that they just came up with, because they can't just keep saying we're selling you another house record. We're gonna sell you Blip House. We're gonna Handbag. Remember Handbag?
Handbag, yeah, that's right. You know what? You know how I found out about Handbag? You know? Do you? I know you, Gerry. You would know. Do you remember back in the mid-90s those magazines out of the UK, Music and Mix Mag?
Yeah.
That's how I found out about Handbag. And I'm like, what the hell is Handbag?
Made up shit to keep selling stuff. And yeah, sometimes a genre would come out, and there'd be maybe a half dozen or a dozen records that sounded the same. Like, let's talk about Speed Garage.
That's another one.
And that was like a handful of shit, and then it was done. You know, and let's talk about Electro Clash. You know, it just comes and goes. But forever house, forever techno, and we'll give trance its own little corner too. But you know, you can't keep saying the same thing. You know, hip house, yeah, there you go. That lasted like that long, you know, but it's just sales and marketing. Don't fall for the hype, bro. Always stick with the underground, you know. But I saw somebody, I think Tony G, is that the OG Tony G? Go props for that guy. He taught us all what's up, you know, on K-Day, you know. And that's what made us compete. Like, I want to sound like that. I want to scratch like that, you know. And if I can't, I'm going to practice till I can, you know, not relying on technology, but oh shit, I gotta be light with my hand. I gotta fix my needle. I gotta get better needles. I gotta get that slip mat. I gotta figure it out. You know, it's when the body and everything's working, man, and that record's spinning, there's nothing like it. I remember seeing Ralphie Rosario the first time. Ralphie Rosario was the first DJ that did an all CDJ set at Deep here in LA. And it was weird because nothing was spinning. You know what I mean? There's nothing rubbing and there's nothing spinning. And that's what you want on the dance floor. You want people rubbing and spinning. And here you had these things that, you know, there was something spinning in there, but I couldn't see it, and it was a laser and I couldn't see it. And it was just a different vibe, you know. It was a very different vibe. We changed, you know, we adapted, of course, because we want to keep partying and dancing, but it was definitely a different energy when there's nothing spinning and rubbing. And the needles pick up the sound too of the space, right? The needles aren't just picking up the groove; they're picking up the environment. You know.
Interesting thing you said about Ralphie Rosario, because the first time I saw it was a prototype. It wasn't even the release version, but the first time that I saw a DJ use what they call, what the original name was, Final Scratch, aka Serato, was Josh Wink.
Yeah.
And he had a prototype of it. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? It was at a wax party.
Was that at the Palace?
No, it was at the Larchmont. It was at a wax party.
Oh.
Yeah. And we're talking, I think this was either 1999 or 2000. And he had different setups and hookups that, like again, it was a prototype. And I saw that and I was like, wow, what the fuck is this? And then you mentioned about the Ralphie Rosario thing. Yeah, it was the same experience.
Yeah. And Josh, when I saw him with the Serato at the Palace, it was probably sooner around that same time. I mean, I've seen Josh kill it, you know, from Miami to San Francisco, here, always. With all those tracks at his disposal, he didn't know how to set a groove. Because there was just too much, you know.
Overload. Yeah, overkill. Yeah.
You'd go out with a stack of records and you knew you were going to hit all of them because they were all, you know, preciosas, you know. And here you have your 10,000 tracks. Oh, man, well, where do I go? You know, what should I do? Well, let's try this. Let's try. You know, you could go anywhere, you know, and you get lost. And we were like, dude, Josh, what's going on? He's like, I got too many records. And I guess that was before folders, right? You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm still
we need to organize.
Bro, I'm gonna go look for that. I'm gonna start DJing Handbag, bro.
With my Handbag track.
That's always been one of my arguments against using Serato. You don't need, if you're playing a 2-hour set at a club, you don't need 80,000 songs at the touch of your fingertips. Okay, you just need to know how to select your music. Back in the vinyl days, if you had 20,000 records, did you take 20,000 records to the club?
Hell
No.
You go crazy.
You know exactly what to grab. Same concept. So you don't need Serato. Oh, people tell me, oh, I need Serato. I need a laptop because I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm going to do. You're playing an hour and a half. Okay? You do not need 100,000 songs on your fingertips.
No.
All right?
No.
I mean,
No.
I don't know if you were at this party, Gerry, but it was, the party was called Babylon. It was a New Year's Eve party. It was Tony, DJ Sneak, and Doc at the Fox Theater in Pomona.
Oh, no, I never
Sneak,
got to the
Sneak,
Fox.
Sneak played 4 hours, one record bag.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
4 hours, one record bag. So there's no need. When I hear DJs, well, I need the Serato because I don't know where I'm going to go. Dude, come on. Learn the craft.
Yeah.
There's no excuse. No excuse.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but yeah,
that's the thing. And what is Sneak about? What does Sneak talk about all the time? He tore apart everybody's favorite darlings at the time, the Swedish House Mafia, and called them out for what they were, dude.
Yep.
You know, there's entertainers and there's DJs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, don't get it confused and don't believe the hype. Are you into entertainment? Or are you into DJ? Simple.
Yep.
You know.
Right. That's right. That's right. And Grease, don't get it twisted. You are a DJ.
Nah. I use the sync button. I got the little man under the table spinning, and I got 80,000 songs, bro.
But really, I mean, I do hear what you're saying about like the art of DJing is disappearing right now. I've been to a couple of parties with like young generation, and they're playing disco, bro, off of vinyl, and you can't tell me you haven't heard disco mixed. I mean, just sitting here in Boyle Heights, you hear the quinceañera or some party going on, and they're mixing disco. So you know what it sounds like to be mixed. And these kids don't care. They're just like, they're not even cutting. They're letting it just go cluck, 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 into the next track. You know? And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you heard your Tia's CDs, you heard her tapes, you heard Henry, you heard somebody mix. It's not like there's not a shortage of mixes on Twitch or YouTube, but some of them aren't getting it, you know? But then there's others that are taking classes with Irene at a college, you know, that are still filling up the classes at the Beat Junkie School, and they're learning, you know. So it's there, I believe, and it's just always going to be in the underground. It's not going to be in your face. It's not going to be in the entertainers, you know. It's not going to be the ones who are jumping around the most and getting your attention the most. It's going to be in the artists, the ones who really care about what they're doing and adding to the tradition, you know, because it is a tradition, as we've seen, you know, all these names that we've heard about, you know, from Levan to Del Rio and Flores, and all of them are Levans and you know, Mancusos. You know, we got to recognize, you know, they did the discos here, maybe not in their apartment, maybe not in their lot, because we had, you know, Circus Disco, we had, you know, Geno's, we had, you know, the Copa, we had big ass backyards, you know, where we could pull in our huge ass sound system. We had Brandy's in a freaking parking lot, and you know, you didn't go off beat, and you mixed, and that mix, if you were badass, was at least 30 seconds to a minute long, you know. Like, you rode that, you made that third record, you know, every time, because that's the standard we set. That's the standard we live by, you know. But things change, yeah, but I have faith that mixing is always going to be there, because I'll keep it going. I know you keep it going, and a lot of DJs are keeping it going still.
Yeah, not true, man. I mean, you're right with the whole, like, people don't care about mixing anymore. Us here in Vegas, you get a lot of those $40, $50 an hour DJs doing these events and all that, and we call them, well, the sonidero kind of deal, because all they do is, like, they talk over it right when they're supposed to mix, they hit the horn, or they just fade it out and then fade the other song in, totally offbeat. They don't care, and
do the echo. Yeah. Yeah. And that's cute, and that's a moment, you know. That's a moment. I mean, we could say our thing was a moment, but it's not. It's obviously going on, what, 30 years now? You know, with Powertools, we were already late in the game, you know. It was already, people were already mixing since the 70s and 80s, you know. And we came in the 90s, you know. That was already 20 years in, and we pushed mixing, you know. And we're, you know, that's just how it's going to be. You know, there's always going to be others and pop-ups and, you know, ta-ta-tas and showies and stuff, but the real is always going to be there. You got to, like they always say, support the underground will support you.
Who do you guys think that was the one that started bringing the house sound into the West Coast?
Well,
who do you guys
there was a lot, right? Like there was the gay scene, of
Yeah,
course.
I think Tony G asked that question, like, then who started playing house in L.A.? And I'm like, fuck, I can't. I don't think none of us could say this was the first DJ ever to play a house record in L.A. ever. I don't know.
There was DJs that I didn't get to hear, like Billy Long, and I heard he played house. Michael Angelo at Gino's played some house, and he was mixing. He was mixing with turntables without pitch control. He would use the record cleaner to slow it down, right? And Tony G says he did it. I believe it, because that guy was always
he was asking who was the first one to do it.
Yeah, that's why I asked the question.
On the radio. Yeah, on the radio. Terrence Toy, definitely. I remember a DJ Science at Details, you know, with the gentlemen and them, they had a night where they played house, and I was like, wow, what the hell is this, dude? It sounds like the same record the whole night. Like, it's house, it's this new thing. Yeah. And then Adrian, who used to be, I think, Prism from the Awesome Foursome, he broke off and did a thing called Sexpress, and he was playing acid house there in like '87. You know, so it's never just one person, man. It's a collective. It's a huge body of people, and we all hear different things or hear it from different places and contribute to it. You know, acid house in '86, '87, '88. House, you know, you could say, you know, Larry at DMC was trying to sound me house in '86. You know, he was telling me Tent City and stuff, and I was like, what's this, man? He goes, oh, it's the latest thing, you're gonna love it. Tony Largo broke away from Florentines, and I think he went to Fantasia, and he was trying to play house, and his crowd wanted him to play the same old, you know, as ballet, as Tony Morales. And he said, nah, I'm going to play house. And so they kicked him out of Fantasia. And that's when he went and started the Seven Seas. And at the Seven Seas, the same thing. And that's when he had to go do Candelabra and just plain pure house.
Was that before Mars FM?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is all like before all that. Yeah. Yeah. You know?
Wow.
So much history, man. And it is hard.
Mars couldn't have happened if it wasn't already a scene. Mars didn't create the scene. The scene was there, and then Mars came. You know, we had the Massives, or we had Gilligan's Island, we had Mad Hatter, we had Tef's events, we had Orbital at fucking Spruce.
Yeah, Boots. I remember. Yeah, Tef and CPU, all these guys. You know? Right.
And we had Powertools already before Mars. You know, Powertools was already 2-3 years in before Mars came around, I think. You know, and then.
No, I remember Mars when I was in high school.
Yeah.
Mars FM. I remember Mars FM was out when I was like in 1990, 89, 90.
No,
that's why I first heard Mars FM.
No, that was probably something else. The Mars, I think, came in 91, 92.
Oh, maybe I'm off. Okay, maybe I'm off.
Yeah, maybe 90. At best, my best guess would be 93, because that's when we had the crash almost, when we had the Grape Ape riot. And we started seeing the deaths of all the people on nitrous and shit. And Mars had to fight that to get, you know, legit and shit. You know?
Okay.
Yeah, Mars is 91. Well, that's what DJ.
Okay, so someone's saying that Mars FM was 91.
You're by the computer? Google that.
Yeah.
Somebody Google
it. Somebody go to IA and check it out.
Yeah,
that's crazy, man.
Because I remember hearing Tony called himself Tony the Tiger on Mars. You know, but yeah, you know, Tony G. What record did you play, Tony G, on the radio the first time? You know, and then what? You know, for the West Coast, I think we had Tent City was '89.
Tent City.
You know, I mean. Like some of the stuff, for me, Phyllis Nelson's "I Like You," that was pre-house to me.
Right.
That was like vocals, you know, like kind of like smooth, groovy stuff, and then it went techno.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck, man? That's like some other level shit, you know? And to me, that was like early house. But what do you call it? Midnight Desires, a Midnight Lover. Midnight Lover. That sounds like house to me, you know? And where was that from? Was that Italian? Was that New York? Was Canadian? You know, that's where the music was coming from, right? Yeah, I don't think it was called house. It was just, that's why I call it proto house or pre-house. You know, like they call some stuff proto punk or pre new wave. There's stuff that happens before that leads up to that. You know, yeah. By the time we got to Big Fun and Good Life, that was already like commercial. That was already, you know, a record label behind it and stuff. It wasn't, you know,
yeah.
That was already big. But we're talking like these small independent labels that you know, few pressings and that was it, you know.
Somebody's asking where to go? What was the first house song? And well, I don't know about the first house song, it's hard to say, but earlier I touched on the first, you know, with Jesse's, you know, On and On record was credited to be, quote unquote, the first actual house record to be released. And that was in '84. But I don't know. It's hard to pinpoint. It's really hard to pinpoint that specific stuff. You know, the first house song or what DJ played the first house track and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and then
what
year was Pump Up the Volume? Pump Up the Volume was 88 or 87. Because
the track?
Pump Up the Volume by Mars. Remember that? That was like the big record that really put the idea of sampling on everybody's mind. Like, oh wow, people are just sampling and making music, and that to me was like
that was late '80s. I want to say that was like late '80s,
mid-'80s, wasn't it? And so you know, you know, that's a very different way of producing. And if we want to consider that, like, how are you producing the music? Not just, you know, what's it called or where's it played at, but how are you producing it? You know, I think Big Fun was pretty much, they had some live instruments in there. Like the Static Revenger was Dennis was the bass player for Big Fun and Good Life. You know, but if you're talking about producing stuff just by samples or producing stuff just by synthesizers, that's a different game, right? And that's also an element of what you're going to call something, I would imagine. You know, and then, you know, some people debate that, like, are you sampling live instruments and looping them how you want, or are you just using technology? And if you're just using technology, you're going to sound more techno, and that's why they call it techno. And if you're doing more like live instrument sampling, then you're more in the house thing because you're using congas and live instruments and live bass players. But you know, the conversations can go in every direction, in any direction, and you know, who's first or what is just that. I think we just got to recognize that it was a movement that has like every movement has a lot of players. You know, you can't tell the story of DJing without the promoter that put it together, or the sound system that it was played on, or the señora that led you to the backyard, or the club owner that gave you a chance.
Right.
It's and the printing company that made the freaking flyers. Like, what the fuck? You want me to make 3,000 of these little things? Like, what are you talking about? You know, what are you gonna do with them? You know, it's a collective.
According to Google, Mars Pump Up the Volume was 87.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of that Sampadalia, you know, thing, and the creation of the law firms that would hunt down people for sampling, you know. And that was horrible because, you know, they let some artists get away with it by saying, oh, that's inspiration, but if you're black or brown and you're taking something and flipping it, oh, you're robbing, you got to pay, you know. But rock musicians have been stealing black music since forever, you know, and saying, oh, well, they're just my inspiration. Well, that's the exact same song Guantanamera is Twist and Shout, fool. You know? You know, it's like, you know, how you gonna change Guantanamera and call it Twist and Shout? You know, but they let them because they're the Beatles and they're cute. but you know, black folk and brown folks taking beats and flipping them upside down and running them through filters and doing this and that. Oh, you're stealing, you gotta pay, or we're gonna shut you down. You know, it's fucked up. You know, we got to remember that there was, it's always been a battle. You know, it's always been a battle, and that Kaminsky Park that you guys talked about, that was to squash that disco thing because it was gay and black and brown. You know, and it drove it into the underground. You know, it went back to the bathhouses, back to the private parties, back to the lofts. But here in L.A., where we've always been a little more progressive, we had Circus Disco, and we had the Odyssey, and we had Geno's, and we had so many other clubs that kept it going, you know, and just evolved, and just the DJs kept grooving and coming up with what's new, you know. Yeah, shout out to Monochrome, shout out to Lion Printing, shout out to Atlantic Printing, you know. Shout out to Lenny V, man, the man who prints everything, right?
Monochrome was huge over here, man. All the nice flyers came from Monochrome here in Vegas. Like you know, they try to do it here now. Like it was, if you didn't have Monochrome, dude, that at one moment, if like you looked at the flyer, said Monochrome, oh, dude, they spend the money. This is going to be a dope event. If it didn't say Monochrome on it, said something else, yeah, this is going to be, you know what I mean? Because they didn't spend the money. They made some really pretty flyers.
Yeah. Geno's was landmark. I've interviewed Steve Beltran, Tony Largo, and other guys that would take the bus from here. They would get out of high school and go to Geno's and watch Michelangelo mix. You were probably right there with them, Tony G, watching Michelangelo do some stuff that people hadn't done with turntables, you know, and then like try to come home and do it, and try to do it in a backyard party or whatever, you know. We learn from everybody learns from somebody. Everybody hears it from somewhere. And then what do you do with it? You know, what are you going to do with it? You know, are you going to look for the easy way? Boop, sink. Or are you going to figure it out?
Hey, you don't even use headphones, dog. You don't even use headphones, bro. It's the future, bro. It's the future.
Oh man,
nah,
I guess
I think at the end of all this, it has to be a group of people. It has to be a movement to make the thing happen. And regardless of who it is, or, oh, this guy made it first, doesn't matter. The guy could be the first one, but if it didn't pick up steam, if it didn't move and nobody pushed it, if there wasn't people following, if there wasn't people trying to mimic or copy the style, it would have never worked out. So I'm glad that we could kind of have an idea of where it started, but you got to give credit to everybody else around it, beside it, you know, and people grabbing it. Like you said earlier, Suave, I could do better. I can do it better.
Yeah.
I could produce it better, you know, and that's what kind of gets us to the point where we're at right now, because right now you have so many styles, so many people have put the spoon in the soup that has changed everything from like the beginning to like the European Union and everybody else over there grabbing this house music, turning it to their own thing, you know, and then bring it back. And then you have New York, Miami, you know, LA, all mixing up in their own little style to create what we listen to now, you know?
Yeah, it's a collective effort, man. The DJs can't do it without promoters, without sound systems, without flyers, without venues. And what are the promoters going to promote? What are the flyer people going to put on there? What are the venues going to put in dance? You know, and the dancers, of course, the people. You know, you gotta connect. You know, yeah. You know, it's you know, and then the stories we don't hear about, like as it is, you know, the West Coast is barely getting its props, you know, because people like this show and other things that we've done. But the story, dude, like you said, you brought up my book. All my research, dude, the books that I read, none of them mentioned the West Coast or, you know, what we did. And we were doing it bigger and badder than anybody before. I mean, the rock of the 80s at Pico Rivera Sports Arena, what the Teddy Boys did, what holding down Florentine Gardens, Casa Camino Real, Don Quixote's, you know, parties all week, packed. And then being able to say, we're going to do a rock of the 80s. We want all the biggest, baddest motherfuckers on this flyer. Everybody's going to be at Pico. Boom, you know, and it's there. And nobody Nobody wrote it down. Nobody filmed it. Nobody talked about it. But we're going to hear about this little loft in New York. You know? We're going to hear about this apartment, you know, because they had special membership only, you know. That's cool. I'm just saying, let's put some perspective, you know, like we have, you know, 3,000-4,000 people at Pico Rivera Sports Arena. Okay, you know, that's something, you know, 200-300 people in an apartment. Okay, cool. You know, that works for you. That works for you, House, you know, pero West Coast just seems to do it bigger all the time. I don't know.
We got quinceañeras, man. We got freaking backyards.
We're trained young. We're trained from young, right?
Just here in Vegas, sometimes we would go to the quinceañeras because like they would hire like big DJs and they would do the, you know, mariachi and banda, but then they'll throw like 2 hours of house music. Yeah. And this DJ only had 2 hours to like go ham. And that's what he did. He just fucking played his ass off, and we'd get out there like, man, this is better than half the raves we've been to, bro. Like that dude got off because he only had a limited time to, you know, to show what's up. So yeah, man, I think, because I'm glad you brought up that book. We got to do the book on the show, man. I want to really touch base.
Yeah.
And now,
yeah. What book is it? What book is this that he's talking about, Gerry?
My thesis. It's old, man. It's from 2008, fool.
Is it already out?
Yeah, it's been out. 2008.
How come I never heard of it?
I'll bring you one on Saturday, Holmes.
Yeah. Let me check that out.
Yeah, Saturday we're doing a Powertools thing in West Covina because we take it back to the hood. We couldn't do La Puente, which is the DJ capital of the world that nobody knows about. You know, only the heads
apparently.
Only the heads know that La Puente is the DJ capital of the world. But the best we could get was West Covina, and we're gonna do a 30-year continuation celebration of Powertools because. You know, that was big. You know, I don't know if you guys saw what happened at Pershing. We had a huge party with Richard and Bill y todo eso. Pero, you know, we, you know, Robert, the producer that I handed over the reins to in production, and Raul Campos and La Rock and other heads, you know, we think like, you know, wow, you know, there was so much that was missing from that. You know, like they didn't have no drops. They didn't have none of the intros that we used. I mean, I kept imagining being right there at Pershing Square hearing, boom, Papa Powertools.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't do that.
You know, I'm like, Richard, you didn't bring no drops? No, I didn't. So we're doing something where we're really inviting like DJ champs. We're gonna have, I think, Adopi's showing up, Gargamel's showing up. Who else did I reach out to? I reached out to a couple of them.
Did you reach out to Jungle George?
Jungle George, I left him a message. Yeah, because we had some top quality DJs, man, that came through there that are still doing it. And really cut their own. Raul Zerna is gonna try to stop by. He's a huge guy, you know. And you know, they started as 15-year-olds in our DJ contest, you know, and that's part of the legacy. You know, it wasn't just, you know, Richard and Bill and the big, you know, old classics, man. It was, for me at least, it was about pushing new stuff. That was my job. Like, go find what's big and bad in the underground, and I'm there, you know. That we're going to bring in this new thing called drum and bass. We're going to bring in this new thing called trance, you know, and you know, we got to show it because people loving it, and it's going to be big. You know, we can't just play what you know is being sent to your mailbox, you know, or you know that your homies are making. You know, we got to look around and see what else is happening, and that was my job.
And it's not just a party.
That's what it's also going to be. You know, like
yeah,
Suave was on there. You know, I love Suave. Suave was always one of my go-to guys. If I had a cancellation, Suave always had a mix ready to go. You know, I mean, yo, you got a mix? I just finished one. You know, and come on down, and it always fresh as house music from New York, from, you know, wherever he got his stuff from. Suave always came with it. You know, I had a handful of heads. Terrence Flores was another one. You know, that I could rely on like that. But it was about, you know, showing up with the new stuff, not just, you know, like you heard at that other event was just flashbacks, and that's cool, but that wasn't what the show was about. The show was always about going forward and what's in now, not what's in the back. We'd have a classic mix once in a while, but it was once in a while. Our focus was now and tomorrow. And so that's what we want to talk to the guys who did that and pushed that, you know, and that was our homies and our DJs.
So the show for this Saturday, it's not just going to be a party, but it's also going to be on Twitch.
Yeah, we're gonna,
and there's going to be Q&As and interviews.
We're gonna have like some conversations, like how, you know, like I said, we're having Dopey and these other Gargamel come down, and I'm going to say, hey, what's up? What was your experience after you became champion, or what did you do with that, or how did you know, what happened from that, and what did you learn from Powertools, and then what did you learn, and you know, just what was that legacy really, you know, and then, you know, Raul might do a set, you know, LaRock might do a set, I might do a set of whatever we think that's hot right now, you know. That's what we're saying, you know, we're not going to do no flashbacks. You could put on, you know, any Twitch or YouTube and find that stuff, you know. It's again like what's now and what's tomorrow, or what do we like right now, you know.
Yeah, I love it, man. So it's not open to the public, so it's going to be streaming on Twitch. Is that what you're saying?
No, it is open to the public, but it's also going to be streamed on Twitch.
Location? What's the
City Grill or something like that? I've never been there. This is put together by our homie Noe, Killer Noise. Okay. No, we're not forgetting the LA, East LA scene, dude. We came from the East LA scene, bro. You know, puro East Los aquí. I'm still in Boyle Heights. Where are you at? You're probably in some suburban place, no? You know, but I mean, yeah, man. No, I just mentioned fucking Quiet Cannon and Don Quixote's and, you know, La Casa and Florence. Now we're talking about forgetting the East LA scene, man. That's where all the best DJs first came from, and then they moved to La Puente and they started coming out of there. Tony G, please come down Saturday from 6 to midnight, man. City Grill. We'll be honored to have you, man. Come say something, you know, about Powertools.
City Grill, Puente. I have no idea where that's at, but
no, West Covina.
Yeah, it's the address is 147 East College Street in Covina.
Yeah, Covina.
And it's from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Yeah.
So they got LaRock, Raul Campos, David Delano, Robert Chains, Gerry Meraz, myself, and who else was going to be showing up?
Yeah, we got a whole stellar lineup coming up, just popping in, man. You know,
nice.
Because
it's an event.
Yeah, I'll send you the flyer. I'll send you the flyer.
It's not just us. It's everybody. You know, we couldn't have done it without you guys, and we appreciate it, and we want to give everybody a chance to say something or, you know, feel like really connected rather than just sweating out on a big slab of concrete in downtown. It was a dope party, but you know, it was hot as fuck.
That shit was massive, dude.
Yeah,
that thing looked like it was busy as hell over there, man.
It was a sight to behold, man. Yeah. It was definitely inspiring, but you know, I do believe we could have, you know, put some new music on rather than just a bunch of flashbacks after one another, you know. You know, and Dwayne Harden has some amazing music today, right? And he's just allowed to do one classic track. Like, man, we really needed to hear, you know, his George Floyd track. You know, so many wonderful things that Dwayne Harden has, and we just let him do one track. Come on.
Yeah, but Gerry, to be fair, I mean, isn't that what that crowd expected to hear? They didn't want to hear new shit.
I don't know. I have faith in our crowd that they listen to the show because we played new stuff. Now, I could be, you know, I think it's cynical to think that our crowd only wants the old stuff. That's limiting them. That's holding them back. And
for that, I mean, look, there was a mixture crowd. Don't get me wrong. It was a mixture crowd, but I would say predominantly it was kind of a little older crowd, and they wanted to hear what they wanted to hear, and that's exactly what Richard and Bill gave them. That's just the way I saw it.
I mean, yeah, but again, that's not what the show was.
No, true.
Right?
True.
So
the show was about cutting edge music.
We're a flashback show, or we want to pretend we're an old school show. That's not Powertools. We never, you know, did that. When I left the show, is because I knew they were going to try to call it, you know, Powertools, where EDM lives, and I was like, we're not calling it shit. We don't even call it house or techno. We just say we play what's dope because it's what's dope. It's not about a label. It's about what the DJs are playing that's dope, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Ever since uh, me and Gerry met each other on this page and whatnot, Gerry has always been pushing about, yeah, the old school is cool, but you got to think forward. You always got to think forward about what's coming up. And I think a lot of that has set into me. So when we have our DJs come on the page, we try to play everything and the newer shit and the different shit. And we already have other pages playing the old school stuff and the 90s, and it's okay to touch it once in a while to reminisce, but we I would like to say that when you go on Rebel Days, you're going to hear these guys. They're going to be playing, the newest techno, the newest, hardcore, or, drum and jungle, different, because the guys that I have on Rebel Days, they all have different genres and style. And I'm going to do a shameless plug right now because that's what I'm going to do. September 9th, we're going to be in Pasadena, and that's kind of the idea of the show that we're bringing in. We call it a Rebel Days experience. It'll be at the Dare Wolf, September 9th. I have one DJ starting off the night with classic house, and then from there we're going to take it all the way, and the last DJ is going to play dark techno to close out the night. And we're just going to go through every DJ is going to play a different kind of genre, moving it up forward on their style, but with newer stuff, tech house, techno, dark techno. We're going to do a little bit of disco house, a newer disco house, just a little mix of everything so we could give the people, kind of introduce them, like you're saying, get them into maybe listening to the new stuff, because the DJs are going to dictate that,
Yeah, we used to trust our DJs. See Julian and Animal talking about the past and all, but that's cool. But it's what we used to trust our DJs. Like you used to trust your promoters. Oh, Animals gave me his flyer. It's gonna be cool. Oh, this DJ played that record. It must be cool. It's not like, oh, I know this song. It's great. It reminds me of when I was a kid and I was thinner. When I had hair.
We're at the dance
no,
all
man,
night,
you
right?
can still have fun with new music, man. You could, you gotta keep going, man. We weren't out there waiting to hear fucking 1960s music, were we? We weren't out there waiting to hear 70s music to remember when we were kids. We wanted to hear what was dope now, man. And thank you, Tony G. That was a nice thing to say too, Tony G. Thank you very much about Powertools. Yes. And we might not be the best house music show, but we definitely the longest running house music show. I don't know if Tony Humphries is still going, but Tony Humphries was the one who was going the longest before us. And then I think, Pete Tong, I think, is next. After
Well, I think Pete Tong's still doing his.
So we're right there with him, man. We're still a couple of years ahead of him. But if he's still going, man, that's Pete good. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like, these guys, Tony Humphries, Pete Tong, and, I haven't heard Powertools in a minute, but I hope they're playing and pushing, the music, not the past.
Yeah.
Because we can't get it. You can't bring it back, bro. You just can't. No matter how much you pray, no matter how much you fucking kill a chicken or a goat, whatever you think you're going to do, you can't bring it back. You can recontextualize it, you can remix it, you can flip it, but it's going to be different.
Yeah.
It's always going to be different.
I think it's okay to reminisce like we're doing today, but I think we also, for the sake of the music, we got to keep pushing forward. It's good to do that, to be talking about the old times, but also talk about the new times and where everything from where it started to where it's going now.
Man. Right? What's the statistic is something like 3,000 new records, 3,000 new tracks come out every week or every month or something ridiculous like that. I mean, why are we dissing all these producers and artists that are, putting it out, and hoping to catch a vibe, hoping to hit a vibe because we want to play fucking, something for the 10,000th time,
Yeah.
It's like, man, like, yeah, I want to play your new stuff, let's hear it, let me hear it. I want to check it out. If I could put in the mix, I'll definitely put in the mix.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Tony G to join us one of these days and join us here on our Sessions show. I would love to interview him, and you guys talk really highly about him, so I gotta.
Dude, he's the Godfather, man. He taught us what its time could do. He taught us what 2 turntables and a mixer could do. I mean, he was our representative at K-Day, man. Like, it was Greg
Yeah,
Mack, and you know, but it was Tony G holding it down for you know the homies, you know.
yeah. The Mix Master show on K-Day changed my life.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
changed,
We didn't hear.
it
That's see
changed my life.
exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's like you heard something you never heard before. You heard music being played like the way you never heard it before. Fuck, he's playing it fast. Fuck, he's playing it slow. Oh shit, he's spinning it. He's looping that. How is he doing that? Is that a button? Is that a controller? Is that a guitar thing? Or well, how's he doing? Oh, he's going back and forth. Just what? It blew your mind. You know, that's what we should always want, to be blown away. Not, oh, I'm gonna hear "Baby, We're Gonna Love Tonight" 10,000 times. You know. I'm gonna hear Dookie Booty for the 1,500th time. You know, fuck that. You know, like I want my mind blown, man. Like, you know, remember that when we heard Tony G, and remember when we heard Doc the first time, and Louis doing his bass loops, you know, live. You know, blow people's minds, or else sit down. You know, go play your retro, you know, somewhere else.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, that's what did it for me. The very was K, the Mixmaster show. Not necessarily for me, not necessarily Tony, but you know, the World Class Wrecking Crew and Jam and Gemini. When I accidentally discovered the Mixmaster show, that was it. It just completely changed my mind. It blew my mind, just like you were saying. How are they doing this? What's this? What's that? It introduced me not just to certain music, but introduced me to the DJ. That's what started that show. That station is what started.
The
whole thing. It changed my life. Like I said, it completely changed my life.
Well, well, hopefully, I'm gonna invite him personally right now, live. Tony G, we'll love to have you here on Rebel Days. Don't take this bad because I don't know. I'm over here in Vegas, and I grew up in the Vegas scene with the house music. These guys here have been teaching me so much, and I feel smarter every day just talking to them. So, you know, hopefully you could join us, man. I'll definitely send you a DM with that. But, man, it was a good show.
Thanks for letting me on. I'm gonna dick out, man, so you guys can finish up with Suave. Thanks for the invite. We'll talk about our reunion. And I'll see you the 9th for sure.
I'll see you Saturday. Don't forget the book, Gerry.
Of course.
Yes.
I love what you.
All right, brother. Thank you, man. Man, that was fun, dude. That was exciting.
Yeah. You knew Gerry was gonna drop some history as well. I mean, the guy knows his shit, you know.
From the and I always tell this story, and it sucks, dude, because I felt so bad. Like they introduced me to, like, oh, you know who Gerry Meraz is, and I'm like, no. Like, you don't know who Gerry Meraz is? I'm like, no. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, I was hearing Powertools on tapes that my cousins would copy for me in California, and then when I would go once every 2 months or whatever, I would have like a bag full of Memorex fucking tapes, and then I would come and play them in Vegas, you know. So I never got the opportunity to like know the history. And then ever since I interviewed him, man, the guy's amazing. He's always taught me so much, and you know, I mean, and here we are still 3 years later, still doing the show, you know, and still learning every day. And I love it because I love history, and especially history that I was a part of, in a sense, you know, for the party scene, stuff like that here. Right. So I love getting the opportunity to, and then you pop in and you give me more knowledge, and you're sending me all this stuff, and I'm like, dude, this is crazy. So I definitely appreciate all you guys for doing that, man. And we're gonna keep pushing it, man, because this is dope, man. I have good times, and I'm glad you came up with this, because I literally just like, you know. And you're like, let's do this. I'm like, fuck yeah, dude. Anytime you guys want to do anything, man, you know, the airwaves are yours, man. I'd love to. I ain't doing shit.
Yeah, like I said, it all started tonight. What happened tonight all started with your post. Yeah. You know, you were posting these little clips about history, and I'm like, well, they're on the right track, but they got this part wrong. They got this part wrong. And I just wanted to make sure that people know the story and don't get the misinformation and whatnot.
Yeah. No, and that's good, dude, because it stays on here, you know, and people could share it and send it to people and let them know, hey, you guys want to know about house music? Check it out. Here you go. Here's like the coming down from DJ Suave, you know, and stuff like that, so people could get the gist of things. And maybe a lot of people, a younger generation, doesn't know too much about the history, but getting it from people that were part of it and have been a part of it, I think it makes it better than somebody telling me on a video real quick, you know.
Right.
I scroll through all these things to see what like interests me, and hopefully it interests people. So when I put that up, I'm like, oh look here, like, you know, here's the birth of trance, the birth of this, the birth of that. They're talking about this. Oh dude, I know people that are on Rebel Days are gonna like this, so I'm gonna share with them. And I'm glad I did, because we're sitting here with it, you know.
Cool. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody else have any more questions, I mean,
hey, we're good today, bro. Last time we had this interview, I was freezing my ass off, and
that's true. You're not freezing your ass off today, aren't you?
I'm sweating my ass off. No, that's hot as hell over here. It rained, bro. Now it's like clear as day in Vegas. Just for that moment when I was gonna start the show, it started raining, so we had a little hiccup. But dude, I'm sitting out here, bro, and it's like fucking nice, man. So, dude, and because I'm not working right now because I broke my hand, so we're good, dude. Like,
okay.
So I got
we could, like I said, we could keep going. We could keep going forever, and like I said earlier, for the people that are really interested, definitely check out those documentaries. It's called Pump Up the Volume, and then Can You Feel It? Those are, if you want more specifics, just DM me, hit me up. I'll shoot you links or whatever. If you want more detail on something, why was Frankie Knuckles not working in New York during that time? You can go into that. What was happening with Steve Dahl and the disco demolition, how it was racial to an extent. And we could go deep into that if you want. But yeah, definitely check out those documentaries to get the deep detail, especially Can You Feel It? And Maestro is another one.
DM me those so I could find some like footage on them, and then I could share them on here.
Okay.
And kind of,
Okay.
Kind of like guide people through it. I'll go find them, even if I have to find them like on YouTube and just get like some clips and then put them on here so people know, hey, you want to get some ideas on how this all started, check out this movie, and get some good clips off of that and post it up, and kind of guide people with that, man. Definitely Animal Event. What's up, brother? He says highly recommend it. Pump Up the Volume. Had all my kids watching it. See, I grew up in Electric Boogaloo. What was that? A Breaking 1 and 2, bro. Like that was like my music movie that I used to watch all the time growing up. But yeah, I definitely got to check this out. It's on YouTube. Sweet. Talk about the
fucking Anthony, man. Let me tell you, I love Anthony, dude. Fucking animal. This vision of Anthony, aka Animal, will never escape me. I want to say the year was 95 maybe, right around there. I was inside an indoor swap meet at a record shop called Mauricio's Records. So I was there. It was me and Mauricio, and all of a sudden I see some skinny, scrawny guy run across the mall with jeans and no t-shirt, and his hair, he had big puffy hair, was just bouncing up and down. That's the image I have of Animal Anthony, and I know this fool for a long time. He used to work, if I'm not mistaken, he used to work at the unemployment office in West Covina back in the day. Is that true, Anthony? If you're still there, let me know. But yeah, I mean, I'll never forget that image of Anthony running across the mall with tight jeans, no t-shirt, and that hair bouncing on his head. That shit was hilarious.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite interviews that I did with Animal. It was so much knowledge out of him, and it was cool to see a different angle to like what we were talking about and what we had been talking about, and getting it from like a promoter's view and what he was doing and what he was putting together with his events. It was really cool to change it up a little bit, because we were just doing like DJs for a while, and it was like this DJ and that DJ and that DJ, but then, promotion wise, and how and then I know you spoke about doing some promos and the whole video stuff, and you know, and it's always nice to hear what other hats everybody else wears and how they added to the party scene, you know?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, let's call it a night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Suave, for this. I really appreciate it. So much knowledge. I'm smarter for it. I hope everybody is smarter for it as well, and they understood and they got it. You know, we'll definitely keep pushing. You guys want to send me people that you guys want me to see in the show, DM me. We'll make it happen. We'll try to make it happen. And let's just keep it going, man. I hadn't done a sessions in a while, so I was due.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a minute since you had a session.
Yeah, well, I did the one because I was doing a little bit more local stuff. I did the one where I was having all these issues with my microphones or whatever. It was just a little thing more local for Vegas, but you know, you guys, any of you guys, you know, have some history. You guys want to talk about it? DM me and we'll set it up. We normally do it on Wednesday nights. I know DJ Suave will vouch for me. We've had great conversations, and hopefully you can make it on September 9th.
I'll be there.
Sweet. And unfortunately, we're starting after the fight, but we crammed 7 DJs in 4 hours because I'm guessing the fight will end like at 10. So it'll be crazy.
The party starts at 10?
The party starts when the fight's over. So Steve and Chris hit me up. He's like, yo, bro, I got bad news. Unfortunately, they're going to be hosting the fight, the UFC fight, and you can't start till after the fight's over. So we're guesstimating 9:30, 10 o'clock.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So it's cool. I set up all the DJs to a shorter set, you know what I mean? Still kind of pushing the same idea, but hopefully it'll make it happen, you know?
Cool.
Sweet. All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you for taking a part today. Come and chill here with us, with DJ Suave and Grease the Godfather on RebelDaze702 Sessions. Until next one. Later, guys.
All right, guys. Peace.